Hello and welcome to this lecture 11 in our series for our course on drought. This is the final lecture for module 2. And this lecture I would like to call the big picture. But before I get to this lecture, let me say it's nice having you. Thank you for taking the course and we hope that you're enjoying yourself. Now let's turn to the lecture and why I call it the big picture. Well, as you will recall, in 2015, September of 2015, the United Nations adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or what we call Agenda 2030. And that is the plan to ensure the sustainable development of this planet. It covers, it's more or less a comprehensive economic and social plan. And it operates around 5 P's: people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. As you can see, it's comprehensive in that sense. And there are goals and specific targets to be met, 17 of them in all. These goals involve fighting hunger, getting rid of hunger, dealing with poverty, getting rid of poverty, dealing with the question of good health and well-being, dealing with the issue of water, quality education, decent work and economic growth, and we could go on and on. They are all listed here for you to see. I just mentioned a few of them. What is our concern? Our concern is how drought can affect the achievement of these goals. And in real sense, it can. Now, I want to relate this in a very direct way. As we know from previous lectures, drought causes first and foremost what? Water shortage. Now, once you have a water shortage, just think, how are you going to achieve goal 3 and goal 6? Just think of that for a moment. It is impossible. You understand? Once you have serious water shortage, that affects the entire community. But as you may recall, we discussed the different types of drought. For example, meteorological drought. And if you remember what happens with the meteorological drought, you would see that meteorological drought immediately affects goal 13, which deals with climate change, right? But then again, we had agricultural drought, if you recall. And as we know, once you have an agricultural drought, what happens? Agriculture production falls. And that therefore affects goal 1, 2, 3, and many others, as you can see here. So therefore, we know that drought, serious drought, prolonged drought, intense drought would affect all of this. But apart from that, if you recall, in one of the lectures, we discussed the issue of ecological drought, where drought affects ecosystems across the board, not 1 or 2, but across the board. It therefore means what? It affects the entire environment in which we live. And finally, you would remember we discussed socioeconomic drought. Those are droughts which affects the entire economy. Such a drought affects all 17 goals, not just a few of them, but all of them. Let us use one concrete example. When you have a socioeconomic drought, it sometimes leads to what? Competition in the region or in the society, in the community for resources. That competition, as it gets more sharp, okay, spills over into what? Conflict. And once you have conflict, what happens? The partnership is broken. The social partnership within the society is broken. But also something else happens. Peace is threatened. Yes, and that is born out of a conflict, which is born out of what? Because there has been a serious drought. So you can see that when I say this lecture is about the big picture, it is indeed the big picture, because it shows you how drought not only affects 1 or 2 areas of our development, but how it can affect the whole spectrum of what we call sustainable development today. Now, I have shown you some direct connections between drought and some of these goals. But there might be some of them that you cannot see or that you don't see. So let's take, for example, goal 7, which deals with clean energy. Well, we know clean energy is energy which does not use what? Fossil fuels. So you can have energy from the sun, solar energy, wind energy, okay? And you can have energy from the ocean. But for a very long time, man has been using water to produce what? Hydroelectricity, which is energy. So a fall in the water, a fall in the rivers compromises the production of hydroelectricity. But we could go on. There are other areas that you might not see the direct connection between drought and that goal. So let's take goal 9, which deals with infrastructure and industry. There are many industries which are water-based. You understand? And without water, those industries will not be productive. But infrastructure itself, in particular, let's take buildings and so on. In the Caribbean where I'm from, water is a serious component in every single concrete building. So regardless of whether you see it or not, if you take a careful look, you would see that drought truly can affect the big picture of our socio-economic development. It can affect the big picture as it regards climate change. It can affect the big picture as regards any particular goal and all of the goals in Agenda 2030. And so therefore, again, we come back to this one simple message. This is why we are having this course, because the truth is, drought is everybody's business. I hope that you do now see why the lecture was called The Big Picture. Until next time, I would like to remind you that should you have any difficulty, please write to us and we will answer your questions. Please read the additional materials and please share this course. Next time, we will begin lectures for Module 3. Until then, I'm Richard Byron Cox.